Then we come to talk about the summation of a geometric sequence. And then, so once again, now we have the formula called Sn is a times brackets 1 minus r to the power n divided by 1 minus r. It's quite hard to remember it and agree with it, but let's find a way to do so. Okay, so now after having Sn, we also have the original one called Tn, representing different things. So you bear in mind that Sn for geometric sequence is still talking about Sn, you are talking about term 1, term 2, term 3, until you add up to term n in the sequence. So once again, I'm not going to prove or explain how we can get the formula. If you're interested, go and read the textbook. And going back to the formula itself, you will see that we need three pieces of information in order to find the summation of GS. They are A, first term, R, common difference, and also N, how many terms are there. So it's a bit different to what you need in AS, that you need the last term. But now in our summation of GS, we need not to do so. Okay, so let's read example 32, maybe one or two examples for explanation. Okay, so now you add your seventh term. That means A, you know its first term is okay, which is what? N is also okay, you have seventh term. But ratio is unknown yet. So that's why at first we need to find out the common ratio of the sequence. Okay, but now it is put in summation or suppression side. So that's why you have to retrieve the original sequence talking about. The numbers we are considering should be 1, -5, 25, -125, and dot dot dot. So these are the numbers originally in GS, and now they are summed up together. So in order to find common difference, we use the same way. You use the latter term over the previous term. So can you see that I repeatedly talking about this formula in different videos. So which is -5/1, that means simply -5. And then so 1 is ready, then now you can find S7 because you're talking about the sum of the 7 terms, which is, so it's called, first term is A, 1 minus R is -5 to the power 7 divided by 1 minus -5. And then so don't be silly to operate on itself, but you use calculator to get it directly, which is 13021, and that's all. Part B, I'm not going to do it for you, but bear in mind that you have to go back to write down the numbers. They are 9, 6, 4, and dot 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 afterward. So this is important because it helps you to find the common difference properly. Another example I would like to share with you is example 35. So because it's a mix-up with Tn and Sn respectively. Now let's read the question. Fifth term, GS is a sum of the fourth term and fifth term is -4. So when you're talking about fourth term and fifth term, that means you're asking about Tn, AR to the power n minus 1. So as a result, T4 will be equal to AR cubed. T5 will be equal to AR to the power 4. So when you add them up, it's -4. And next you have sum of the first two terms is 32. There are two ways to understand it because you can think of S2 is equal to 32 and you can spell the formula. But because first two terms are very easy, then I prefer to, how about we read T1 is A, T2 is A plus, not A plus, AR, and then now you sum them up, it's 32. Does it look easier? Or else you need to write as A times 1 minus R to the power 2 over 1 minus R is 32. And you compare, highlight in this way. If you compare this one and sum these two, you can see the very big difference between them, right? So if you are not really necessary to use the formula of summation of GS, don't touch it. And so I prefer to consider individual terms instead. So now you are asked to find the first term. Okay, underline the question. Find the first term, that means you are going to find A. So let's start. Okay, in red, so these two terms, fourth and the fifth, AR cubed plus AR to the power 4 equal to 32, not 32, is -4. While the blue one, sum of the first two terms, these two, is A plus AR is equal to 32. Well, you see it's very complicated. You don't have any other way to solve it, right? But you can start thinking of, shall I use division to cancel unknown, especially a? Or sometimes if you find that the expression is big, factorization may help. And let's see. Now I would like to rephrase it as a and r cube are common factor. So that's why it's like this. 1 plus r is minus 4. Similarly, you have a as a common factor. 1 plus r is 32. Now you will clearly see that some terms, including a and 1 plus r, a and 1 plus r, they are common to each other. So that's why you may use division, or some of you may think of substitution to solve it. And now I prefer to use substitution. Substitute the whole expression called a and 1 plus r, a and 1 plus r, back to number 1. So that's why 1, 2 will be rephrased as 32, and instead of r cubed is minus 4, or minus r cubed is minus 1 over 8, and that's all. You will see that finally I've got r is minus 1 over 2, and it's almost the end of the question. Because going back to equation 2, which is comparatively easier, simpler, I have a plus a times 1 over 2 is equal to 32. It's like 1 minus 1 over 2a, not what, 1a, 32. Half a is 32, or a is a 64 finally. So that's how we get the answer D. So going back to the very beginning of the question, bear in mind that when you have sum of only two terms, don't be stupid to use summation of sequence. Don't use Sn. Sum of the first two terms looks like we are talking about S2, but if possible, because there are only two terms, please add up the terms only in the question. This is a little trick I would like to share with you in this question in example 35.